Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Bowe. I'm with the Louisiana State Bar Association, and welcome to our Law Talks virtual workshop series. This week is Lawyers and Libraries Week, and we'll be presenting, we have been presenting a Law Talks every weekday at noon, and this will be our last one for this week. Today's Law Talks is on how to navigate online legal resources. And we have attorneys Amanda Brown with Lagniappe Law Lab and Rachel Mills, who's here with me at the Louisiana State Bar Association, presenting on this important topic. Before we get started, I need to go over a few important reminders. Rachel, if you don't mind going, thank you. First, this presentation is being live streamed. Questions will be taken at the end if time permits and answered live. If you are watching at a library, you may walk up to the computer and ask to submit your question through library staff. If you are watching via Zoom, please use the Q&A section. And if you're watching live on Facebook, please submit your questions in the comments section. Please remember, though, that all of the comments are public and visible during and after the presentation. Finally, please keep your questions general and not case specific. The attorneys can provide general information about the law and the legal processes, but they cannot give advice on individual cases. Next, please note that the information provided in this presentation does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information, content, and materials are for general informational purposes only. No viewer of this video should act or refrain from acting based on information provided in this presentation without first seeking legal advice from counsel in your relevant jurisdiction. If you need assistance finding legal help in Louisiana, please go to the Louisiana Civil Legal Navigator. The link's listed here on this page, and we're going to talk more about this very shortly. Also, the LSBA's inclusion of a program is not deemed to be a statement or an endorsement of the views expressed therein by the LSBA or any member of the LSBA. Speakers on LSBA programs were carefully selected for their knowledge, but neither the LSBA nor the speaker warrant that the presentations or the materials were free of errors or will continue to be accurate. Statements in their presentations and their materials should be verified before relying on them. Opinions expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the LSBA, its sections, or committees. Views expressed are those of the authors and contributors only. And so with that, as I mentioned, we have Amanda Brown, who is the Executive Director of Lagniappe Law Lab, and we have Rachel Mills here with me at the State Bar Association. I'll let them introduce themselves, but I'll turn it over to you all to get us started.
All right, great. Thanks, Stephanie. As Stephanie noted, my name is Amanda Brown. I'm Executive Director of Lagniappe Law Lab. We're a legal technology nonprofit that's based here in Louisiana and are the creators and maintainers of the Louisiana Civil Legal Navigator platform that I'll give you some insight into today. But broadly, before we get started, Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself and then I'll go into our goals?
Sure. So, as Stephanie said, my name is Rachel Mills. I work with her at the Louisiana State Bar Association. We work in the department called the Access to Justice Department. Essentially, we work to help support Louisiana's Civil Legal Aid Network, which includes partners like Amanda with the Lagniappe Law Lab. And I'll turn it back to you, Amanda.
All right. So our goals for the day, I know we have an hour. I don't think we'll take the entire time, but we really want to help you guys understand what kind of legal resources are available to you in Louisiana and where you can find them. So this is just a high-level view of what types of resources are available and then the platforms that you can use to find, direct yourself to actually using them. And then, so I'll talk mostly in that first piece on the big picture. And then Rachel's going to talk to you about the individual and specific programs and resources that are available to you as somebody that has a civil legal need. That ranges all the way from self-help tools, specific self-help tools to legal aid organizations, where you can connect with attorneys. So we have a lot of information there for you, but at the highest level, you can just remember that all this is available to you in one website at the louisianalegalnavigator.org. So we'll put that in the chat. But finding those civil law resources, I like to think of it on, you can go to the next slide. I usually like to think of what's available to everybody and what we're trying to create and make available to everybody in three sort of broad categories or buckets. The first one is legal information. What type, what content or informational resources can help you get educated about a particular legal issue, what the process is for that generally, and then what other sort of things you should be aware of in terms of that specific problem as it might, relate to you. So just information is just that. It's information meant to help you understand your rights and responsibilities in the general process for dealing with a legal issue. We also have resources that are a little bit more interactive. Through self-help tools, we have things like court forms, we have templates and worksheets for you to work on. They're all based on specific legal problems or court processes that you might have to deal with. So for example, a lot of family law forms on divorces and custody and things like that. So these are just meant to be tools that are actionable for you to start taking the next step on your legal journey. And then the last piece and the biggest piece for types of resources is getting you connected to a legal service organization that might be able to help you. So information, you're learning, and self-help, you're seeing if it's viable or if it's, a good idea or if there's an opportunity for you to do that specific task on your own. But there are a good broad network of legal service organizations across the state that might be able to match you with a person, an attorney that can help you through that process. So this piece is about getting referred to that network of service providers. So now I'll turn briefly and just introduce you to the Louisiana Civil Legal Navigator. I mentioned earlier, you can find this at louisianalegalnavigator.org. You can also, I did buy the domain for lalegalnav.org. It's a little bit shorter. But this is where you can find and access all that stuff. So pretty much any program or resource that's available to you for a civil legal topic in Louisiana is going to live here. Now, this is not your end goal. Oftentimes you'll go to another website, go to another program that might be able to help, but this is sort of the layer on top of that that can help you find what it is you're looking for and what you need. The next slide will show you that the way that we've organized all this information is just like I just explained in that previous slide with the arrows on it. It's legal information, your forms, and any self-help tools, and then connecting you with legal service providers. So you can enter through, any of those sort of gateways. Rachel, are you you're sharing your screen? Or Stephanie? Or
There.
there
Yeah.
we go. Okay. So I think we can just go back to the slideshow and reshare that. So I can kind of walk you through. I won't do a full site demo, but I took some screenshots so you can see and know what to expect in each of these categories. So on the next slide, you'll see generally what it looks like when you're looking for information. This is when you click on that, you'll get the option for a high level issue category. So family law, housing, we have a lot of disaster resources, public benefits, estates, wills, and guardianships, any sort of like bigger category of legal issue you'll see here. And then once you click on that card and go into the next, you could go to the next slide to show what it looks like to have the option to find your subtopic. What topic underneath that bigger category is it that you're looking for? So everything that we would have, any topic that we would have information or resources available on will be shown here. And then as you click on the individual page itself, I can't remember if I actually put a photo of that. I didn't, but there's an end page that will be a collection. So in this example, this is a family law issue of adoption. And when you click on that, you'll see all the resources that are available to you for adoption, you know, to the extent that we have them. I will be the first person to tell you that we don't have information on everything. We do have content on about 200 civil legal issues, but there's a lot of issues and there's a lot of differences in how issues come up. But to the best that we have created so far, we collect everything for that specific issue on that one page. So that would be any information related to adoption, any self-help tools that might be related to it, and then any service providers that might be able to help you with that issue. I'll also note that something I didn't introduce at the beginning was on the site, we have events, a category at the top for events. And these are places where you can go for like a clinic or a self-help desk and, you know, get in touch with a person that might be able to help you. Going into the piece, the forums self-help resources, unlike the, you know, the driven sort of approach for the information, the forms and self-help resources is just a collection of everything we possibly have. So if you're not looking for specific information, but you just want to find a form for divorce, you can go to the forms and self-help resources tab or page and find all of our resources with the option to filtering them down based on the issue that you do have. So that's a bit about what that looks like right now. Most of the forms on the site are family law related. That's the biggest needs that we see. So that's the biggest effort that has been made to create these types of forms and resources. But we're constantly adding new ones. And every time we do create new resources through either my organization or through collaboration with the Bar Association and the committees that they staff, it will be added here. So this is usually the latest and greatest, the most up-to-date version of all the resources that you can find. This on the next page is our legal service providers collection. You can see it kind of looks like the forums and self-helps page, and that's just so you're comfortable with the same concept. Here's all of your options, but you have the ability to filter down depending on your specific issue, where you live, and even your income level. So I have circled here the income level filter. And what that will do is drop down and give you some ranges of income. And I know that's probably not super accessible or it doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but because of that and the way that we have to match people with programs, if you're in that space and you see the little a question mark to the left of it, you can click on that and it'll actually open up a calculator. And I think I took a screenshot of that and put it on the next page. So if you click on that little question mark, it'll give you a calculator and tell you what your income level is. And then once you close that out, the filter will actually go ahead and take that information from you and only show you programs that you're likely going to financially qualify for. So you can start with that and then refine down by your issue and your location. And that will give you the grouping of resources that you're most likely able to qualify for. So this is just a little representation of what that whole process looks like. So we're taking all these individual pieces of information about you and your situation in order to make sure that you're not just met with 100 service providers and you don't really know one of them is useful or useful for you or might be able to help you. This is, you know, how we can filter that down for you. The next, just as a high level to understand what's in there, what's in that resource database, you'll find information on all the self-help desks in the state, any law clinics that exist. They might host events on a regular basis. You can also find those in the events place, but programs that host law clinics, that includes Free Legal Answers, which is online and which Rachel will talk about. We also have information on actual lawyers and law firms that might be able to help you. The one reduced cost and limited scope service providers are it's as part of the LSBA's modest means directory, which again we'll talk a bit about in a moment. But That's a paid service, but it's generally cheaper because we recognize that people may not qualify for free legal aid, but can't fully afford to pay $300 an hour for a private attorney. So it's sort of that middle there. And then the last is just the full scope. All of our pro bono programs, all the legal aid organizations that are there, they run like a full law firm, but they're nonprofit and they're free services. So these are all the types of referrals and organizations that you might see in that resource database. This is where I forgot to lead into it up front, but again, we have the events category on the website as well. So we're doing our best to try and collect from dozens and dozens of organizations across the state. Where are they going to be, at any given point in time, and be in a place where their goal is to talk to you, to be available to you, to maybe provide you just information and referrals. But the point being, they're in your community and are available to talk with you about your legal issues. You can see here, we also include online resources. I think this particular event is also on, it'll probably go away after today, but is on here as well. So any other types of law talks and virtual events that are happening as well will be listed here too. So again, the intent is to have all of our statewide partners that are having events and clinics and going out into the community here, so you know when and where they'll be, and maybe can either register for that event or catch up with them if you're not required to register. All right, so I'm going to turn it to Rachel to talk about all the individual programs and the types of programs that live within what we just talked about in that bigger structure, but that you can find where you can find all these resources. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. And then, like I said, just to reiterate, everything that I'm going to talk about, you can find within the Navigator that Amanda went through. We're just going to break down some of the individual pieces so that you know all the different types of programs that the Navigator is pulling from. So first off, and kind of most importantly, is the information about legal aid and pro bono programs. So the legal aid and pro bono programs make up kind of our state's largest civil legal aid providers. What you can do and what the Navigator will do is going to match you by parish or where you live, right? So the two legal service organizations that cover every parish of the state are Acadiana Legal Services and Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. You probably saw that logo in Amanda's presentation. But if you qualify, if you use that income calculator and you do qualify for their services, the Navigator will take you and give you all the contact information to get in touch with you. You do have to qualify per those income guidelines. It can only be a civil legal issue, and there's other requirements like there can't be a conflict of interest, and they honestly may not always have the capacity. As you can imagine, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. Our legal aid and pro bono programs often don't have all the resources they need to meet our state's need for civil legal aid. So on top of the legal aid and pro bono programs, Amanda mentioned this. This is the modest means directory. So let's say you go into the Navigator, you don't qualify for legal aid, but you're still not going to be able to afford an attorney at market rate, right? So this is a listing of attorneys willing to work on a reduced rate, maybe a sliding scale or a flat fee. Because kind of keep in mind, if it's a flat fee and you know how much it's going to cost, that often is a lot more consumable by people. Like, okay, I know that it's going to cost this much amount of money. So you do have to qualify to view this directory, but often those income guidelines are much higher than they are for legal aid. Once you qualify through the site, you're going to be able to see a list of parishes. You go to your parish, then you find an attorney and they have their case types and the things that they do and how they charge, right? So what you would have to do from there, you do have to reach out and contact them on your own. What I've been telling people recently, if you have an issue and you're needing an attorney, oftentimes you need to call several, right? Because the first person you call, they may be full of cases and not be able to take it on. There's just lots of reasons to try and reach out to multiple attorneys when you're looking for someone to take on your civil legal issue. But again, here you can see like those practice areas. So if you were looking to like file, um, if you were being evicted, like this Jane Doe attorney wouldn't be the one for you because they don't cover like housing landlord tenant issues. Um, so, but all their contact information is there for you to contact them. Again, this is where you can see you can also search by practice area. So that is the modest means directory. Again, the Navigator will take you there if you don't qualify for civil legal aid. On top of the directory, there's also a newer resource that we begin to advertise. It's been around for a while, but we've recently added it to our LSBA list of resources. It's called DAN, Disability Assistance Network. Again, these are attorneys, they're paid attorneys, but if you're looking for something kind of disability related, per disability law, you often want someone who specializes in that area, and you're going to want them to have that special expertise. This is a listing of attorneys who do have that expertise you need for anything related to disability, ADA compliance, IEPs in school, those kind of things. You're going to want to look here to find an attorney. Our last one is something, like I said, Amanda already mentioned, are the self-help services and legal forms. So Amanda mentioned my colleague Stephanie, who introduced us, her and a lot of other attorneys, judges are often working on uniform statewide forms that people can use for their legal issue to represent themselves. We often say it's always in your best interest to have an attorney if possible. So if you qualify for legal aid, you want to go there. If you can pay for a modest means attorney, that's often in more of your best interest than representing yourselves, because there's so many unique court rules and things that may come up after you file your petition. But if it's a family law issue, you can't afford an attorney, you don't qualify for legal aid, there are some forms that you can use to represent yourself in court, especially in family law, because that's an area we know where people often need resources. So divorce forms, custody forms, to modify custody, anything we have here, you will find through the Navigator, and know that this group is constantly working on making these online forms better, making them automated, and trying to add as many forms as possible to our kind of bank of resources. And again, I think that's something this group has really been working on. First was the battle of getting the forms, getting everyone to agree, make them user friendly, get the instructions. Then we wanted to automate them and make them even easier for people to use. So many of these forms have already been automated, and there's kind of a step-by-step process, or they are working to do so. So this is one of the ones that's often used, the Article 103 petition for divorce. It gives you some instructions. It tells you, you need to answer these questions. When did you and your spouse get married? What parish? All these kind of things that are necessary to then fill out that complete petition and get it in a state where you can file it. Again, you get that completed form at the end. And so just a few more SRL services. The Navigator will take you to, not only do we have SRL forms and actual resources, several places have self-represented litigant desk at courthouses. So Orleans, Jefferson Parish, Alexandria, Baton Rouge. I know I was going to say Shreveport, but I don't think so. They have in-person desks where people can provide information or often notarize things for free, which, notaries aren't free either. So many of your forms are going to need to be notarized, and you could go to a self-help desk to do so. This one on the screen is in the East Baton Rouge Family Court. They've been around for probably a decade now. They are staffed by the Baton Rouge Bar Association. It's a really great resource if you have a family law issue in Baton Rouge and you need assistance filling out your form, you need something notarized, you have a question about court, those kind of things, you can go there and get information. So yeah, and so one of the kind of last things we want to talk about, these are newer things. It's interesting. So today's program, we know some libraries, you guys are streaming it. We often push out our law talks through libraries. Amanda works with our department, legal aid, often works with libraries because that's where we know people go to get information, especially legal information, when they don't know where to go. So what we've done is develop some access points in several libraries across the state, especially in more rural places where we know the nearest legal aid office is pretty far away. Or we even know there's, we'll talk about Free Legal Answers in a minute, which is an online pro bono program. You may not have access to the internet at home, right? So you would go to the library. These access points provide all the resources that Amanda has talked about in a way that's easier to use, this step-by-step process that kind of guides you to what you need. There's printers there, right? For you can print out your legal forms. But yeah, access to the SRO resources, legal aid information, referrals for the Navigator. You can even meet virtually there with an attorney. There's Zoom capability there. And one of the cool things we did this week as part of Celebrate Pro Bono Week is we did a virtual Ask a Lawyer clinic with our access point in DeRidder, Louisiana. Sometimes we often talk about in areas like Beauregard Parish, East Carroll's one, there are actually not many attorneys, period. So even if you have an issue and you want to pay, you may have trouble finding one because you don't have an attorney, you don't have that many attorneys in the parish. So you could meet virtually. And again, I think that also is interesting. Most of the attorneys are in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. So it's a lot easier for us in these areas to find volunteer attorneys because that's where the majority of attorneys live. If they can meet virtually with a client, they can still help them and volunteer. So again, just trying to spread access and awareness and spread resources through these access points, which you can see where they are. One on the screen, Lake Providence, Vidalia, DeRidder, in Harrisonburg, and in Chalmette. But you can find more through that link. And then we move on to Free Legal Answers. We've already mentioned this a couple times, but la.freelegalanswers.org is an online pro bono program. It was created by the American Bar Association. It's administered locally by me here at the State Bar. What you can do is you can get online and ask your civil legal questions where they may be answered by one of our volunteer attorneys. I will say before this site, many other states had sites like these. We did not have one. So when the ABA came to us and said, "Are you interested?" we jumped on board because we knew this is another great tool in our toolkit to help people in need. Users are screened for income eligibility, so it is not open to everyone. But the good news is the income eligibility is actually higher than it is for legal aid. So let's say that you don't qualify for legal aid, you're not ready to get an attorney on the modest means directory. You can come here and ask your question. You could ask, hey, is this a legal issue? What kind of attorney do I look for? How do I approach this situation? or you ask very specific things. Hey, my husband filed for divorce. I don't know what to do next. These are the questions being asked on here daily. You do have to be 18 years of age or older, not currently in jail or prison, have an income within 250% of the federal poverty guidelines, and less than $10,000 in assets. Again, that is higher than it is for legal aid. So we're able to help more people. And I will say what's great about this site, if there is a disaster, they will raise the income guidelines in anticipation of a greater need, right? So during COVID, during the 2020 all the hurricanes that hit Louisiana in 2020, there were higher income levels here. So to be able to help more people. You can ask up to three questions a year. I put this screenshot here so you can see it's very much like an email exchange, yet it's all contained within the site to be private. You can enter your legal deadline. That's a really important thing an attorney needs to know. Again, like your husband filed for divorce, when's that court date? When did he file? Those are things that the attorney needs to know in order to help you. The name of the opposing party. That's really important because the attorney needs to know if they have a conflict. You can upload documents and pictures, really helpful. Like if you're having an issue with your landlord, you can upload your lease and have an attorney read it. That happens several times. You can also self-identify as a senior citizen or veteran. We just do that. A lot of volunteers do. Like, I want to help veterans, right? Here's some veterans that need help. It's just an easy way to identify vulnerable populations. You can save your questions and come back and submit them later. Let's say you qualify, you start your question and you're like, oh, hey, I do need my lease. I got to go home and come back, or I don't know, or you're just busy, right? You can come back later. It will save that so you don't lose it and submit it later. Okay. A couple things there's not a slide in here. I like to say like the benefits to the user when we got this site, when I said it was another tool in our toolkit, it allows for 24/7 access. So let's say in the past you had a legal issue, you had a self-help desk in your area, but you'd have to take off work. This allows you to come ask a question at midnight, so that maybe you don't have to take off work, get some initial information, see what's going on, and then, go with your plan. And it extends pro bono access. So there are not pro bono programs that serve every parish of the state. It's not that pro bono is not being done in those, but they don't have that support that often helps attorneys provide pro bono. So just spreads that pro bono access. If you're deemed ineligible, it's going to give you to this page, which shows you some resources out there that may help. I do warn people, if you are not eligible for free legal answers, the likelihood of finding free legal advice is pretty slim at that point, unless you kind of fall into some special protected groups, like maybe a domestic violence victim or but this will give you the other information out there. Again, primarily we're talking about the Navigator and those kind of resources. It may be SRO resources or the Modest Means Directory, the other resources out there that can help you. Yeah, and then let me see, is this slide showing? Okay, we did have one slide. So Law Help is a website that Amanda runs through the Lagniappe Law Lab. In a lot of ways, it's the basis to the Navigator. On that site, that's where you can find legal information. Preferably, you still want to go to the Navigator first. Anything on Law Help, you will find in the Navigator. But we mentioned there's some other online resources like the Becoming an Adult brochure. This was developed by one of the State Bar Association committees, primarily for children aging out of foster care. A really great resource that we try to share for, like I said, 18-year-olds who have questions about how do I register for the draft? How do I register to vote? Why do I need car insurance? All these kind of basic life principles that if they don't have someone to ask, they'll need that information. So we try to provide that there. And I think I've covered all our programs. But again, we are here, both Amanda and I, to answer any questions about how to access these resources, what kind of resources to go to and all that kind of thing. So, and I did put the link to the Navigator in the chat. So hopefully everyone on Zoom has that. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's really easy to find. Google Louisiana Civil Legal Navigator. It's going to be one of the first things that pops up. So
I also shared that link in our Facebook event, so folks will have it there as well. But yeah, now it's open for questions. So if anyone has a question, feel free. As we said before, if you're on Zoom, please put it in the Q&A section. If you're watching on Facebook, please drop it in the comments section. And we can give it a minute for folks. I know there's a little bit of a delay in the broadcasting. Let's see.
And just one thing to add while we're waiting, I touched on this a little. Stephanie, in particular, we do so much outreach to the libraries, again, because we know that's where people go to get help. Law libraries, public libraries, we're training more and more librarians each day about these resources. So worst case, you forget something, you can go, they often know about these resources. And it looked like we had a hand raised for a minute.
Yes, I see.
Okay. I see a question. What if the Navigator tool is not working properly? What are the next steps to take? I don't know, Amanda, if you want to jump in on that.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on which piece of it's not working. But if there's something in particular that you want to call out, please feel free. I don't know if we have an email, Stephanie. Um, was this from yeah, I'm not sure which one it is. It's helpful to know though, because there's a lot of moving parts there.
Here, we have a lawyers and libraries email address that I will give, and we can route that to where it needs to go. So that it's lawyers in libraries at lsba.org. org. And so if you want to email whatever that issue is with the Navigator, we'll be sure that Amanda gets it. I'm also going to, if you give me a second, I will post the email in the chat.
And so I've just shared something, and I meant to talk about this earlier. Amanda is always open to suggestions and questions, and she has this, what other legal issues do you face? Contact us on the Navigator. So especially if
I
you're
could
a
do that.
librarian or anyone else, please use that information. Let Amanda know what issues you're seeing. And if that's an issue with the Navigator itself, let her know or let us know, and we will work on it to address it. But again, Amanda's always open. I think she said there are now 200 civil legal resource topics that the Navigator covers. I mean, that's up from 190. I told a group that the other day. She's always building and growing the site and is very receptive to feedback.
So I do see some additional questions. Will you add educational videos to the website if someone can't make a live session? And is there a recording of this presentation? So yes, we are recording this presentation, and we will make that available on our Louisiana Lawyers and Libraries .org webpage, as well as it will be live on, or it will be stored on Facebook. I think Facebook stores these videos now for up to 30 days. We'll put it on a YouTube page and post it on our website. That's the way it will stay there longer. And there's other additional educational videos that are listed there as well. I do see, so that last question about the recording was from the Fairwood branch and they have their hand raised. I don't know if that was your question, but let us know if you have any other additional questions. We do have one that just came in. Are there free notary services available for forms other than family law? For example, at motor vehicle.
So that is a good question. For the most part, the self-help desk, I think, are going to notarize their forms. Some legal aid organizations have notarization clinics and things like that. And also, honestly, check with your local library. I know a lot of times, like I was at the Algiers branch of New Orleans Parish Library this week as part of Lawyers and Libraries Week. They have notary public um, programs where people can get things notarized. So if it's not necessarily at the self-help desk, check out your local library because often they do programs like that. And then just really quick, while we wait, let me share my screen again. Just a reminder that these law talks, we've done them every day as part of Lawyers and Libraries Week, Celebrate Pro Bono, but they are year round. So our next one is November 5th on public benefits, including supplemental security income. It's at noon on November 5th. You can find more information on the Lawyers and Libraries page. It is our last one of this year, but Stephanie has been working very hard to come up with the schedule for next year. And what we often do is by January, we will have a schedule for the whole year. We will get it out to the libraries. Again, we are doing this year round, not just this week on important legal topics. And I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Stephanie, for the last slide.
No, not at all. Not at all. Thank you for promoting. But yes, please do save the date for the next one on November 5th. As Rachel mentioned, we are planning 2026, and we'll get that information out shortly.
And just because I know we have libraries on right now, again, please contact us if there's issues you're seeing that you want to see a law talk on. We are often, Amanda's great at keeping data on issues that are popping up routinely and monthly and things like that. So we kind of have a formula for how we do the law talks, but we are always open to hear from librarians and what you're seeing and what you would like to see a law talk on. So yeah, just checking out.
We do have one question that just came through. I'm in desperate need of assistance to navigate resources for a completely dependent person who is being adamantly denied access to essential home clinic continuing care.
Okay. Off the top of my head, Stephanie, you can correct me. I think that could be an issue for disability rights.
Yeah.
Let me pull their info for you. They are an amazing organization that is statewide. Their main office is in New Orleans, but you can call them. Let me pull up their information. And their phone number. I would give them a call. I don't know who initially, it depends. I don't know who exactly deals with that at Disability Rights. But you can give them a call and see if they can help, and then they will tell you who to, they will connect you with the person who could most appropriately take on that issue. And then Deborah, I know you reached out. You're welcome to contact me at the State Bar Association. I see. What is legal aid's phone number? So it depends. Deborah, what parish are you in? So East Baton Rouge. So if you are in East Baton Rouge, it is Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. First, I'm going to put my email and phone number in the chat. I can help. If this isn't enough on the Law Talk, give me a call and I can help you address your issue. But I'm also going to give you Southeast Louisiana Legal Services because that is the legal
I
aid.
just dropped their profile for their specific Baton Rouge office.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Again, that's a perfect thing that you can go through the Navigator for. Finding that legal aid, you're going to put your parish, your income, and it's going to pop out what you would qualify for. So.
And I'm doing one last check for any additional questions. I don't see any on Facebook, and I don't see any here in Zoom. So I think we can go ahead and conclude this one a little early. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Rachel. We really appreciate you presenting on this important topic. That concludes our Law Talks for today. And like Rachel mentioned, our next will be on November 5th on public benefits. So hopefully we'll see you then. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Bye.